months ago, I decided to look for old maps, as the nerd I am. In doing this, I stumbled across multiple old maps of Pensacola, my current and hometown. While doing this, I thought, this is pretty cool. So I gathered maps from all in the 1900s, 21, 41, 44, 57, 60, 70, and 94. I took a break and just threw them in a folder, and every so often I'd come to look at them. Recently, like a week ago, I saw them and thought, surely there's more than these 7. In this video, I will sum up, to the best of my ability, the major changes through all 29 maps and all 254 years of history. So grab your popcorn, get your drink, charge your phone, and while you're at it, like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell. And let me know in the comments if you would like more history videos. In the first map, which is a plan, I think it's a plan, from 1767, this appears to be near the Bayfront Port area. I can't make out the names of the streets because of how blurry it is, and we really won't get a decent map for maybe 100 years or so. And I do see 2 names that I can slightly make out. One may be George Street, another one Butte Street, maybe. That's not how you spell it though. So in the 1778 map, there's no street names, and it's largely unchanged, and there is a fort in the middle though. Now in 1827, almost 50 years later, street names have returned. There's Garden Street and maybe St. Michael's Cemetery, and there's land claims. I don't know if these are farms, I don't know if these are plantations, I don't know what they are, but I do see the Watson's Tract, and I think that is the Smith and Rawlinson's Tract. Now in 1845, this, I don't have the full map, but this is shifted way over to the mouth of, I believe, the Bayou Tahar. It's much rotated, and it looks like they were planning, I don't know, land reclamation or something. I don't know what was going on 200 years ago, but it was very rotated from what the current grid is in that area, even if you go farther north to where the actual land is. 2 interesting things to note is that they had Broadway and Washington Street. Okay. In 1850, we're now back to normal, back in the modern day downtown area. I can make street names from Garden Romana, Intendencia, Hospital, Government, Palafox, and Alcanaz Street. Land claims are back, as is St. Michael's Cemetery, which could possibly be there. Matter of fact, I think it is. In 1861, we're back to having no street names. It does have Newtown right there, and it has Pensacola smattered on. So maybe this was originally a more zoomed out map, and it also says Fort St. Miguel. I don't know if there was originally a fort more inland. I don't know. I don't have the details on it. In 1884, here we go. This is going to be long. It was made by Sanborn Map and Publishing Co., which will stay for a while. As a matter of fact, all maps between here and including the 1907 map, besides the 1901 map, will be made by them. Apparently, the population as of September of 1884 was 10,000. There's some more modern streets visible, such as Spring Street, Chase Street, 9th and 10th Avenue, Gadsden Street, Jackson Street, and now Main Street. The index of streets and businesses, which I personally think is quite cool, and they really need to do this again, is because this and all maps I'll show, excluding 1901 until 1907, as previously noted, are actually atlases, not U.S. atlases, straight up Pensacola atlases. This one, I believe, had 13 pages, which, as said, I think they should totally return this. I think we should totally have full city atlases and not just country atlases. I think that's, or world atlases. I think that's a great idea. In the 1892 map, it's largely unchanged, slightly bigger. The population is now 15,000. And for the 1901 map, this is the only map until 1914 not made by Sanborn. It's extremely blurry, and I can't make out any of the names if there are any. And the left border of the city appears to be modern day A Street. Now in the 1903 map, it is much bigger. The numbered grid is now here, also numbering the east-west streets, which, if you live in Pensacola or happen to know your Pensacola history, not many of you do. I sure know I don't. That the east-west streets are not numbered. This grid stops at Hernandez, or what was then 17th Street, and strangely, Lakeview is renamed Sierra Street or 16th Street, which I find interesting. The offset grid is also here using different names, as well as the ABC streets. Starting past Chase Street on the tilted grid, from the bottom they use the normal streets, but then they start using other street names and it gets really confusing. And even at the top there's a presidential grid that goes Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, which I find very interesting. For the 1907 map, this is the last full map to be made by Sanborn, slightly bigger with some slight tweaking to the offset grid street names. And I said this was the last full map because I will be showing another one that excludes immediate downtown because I'm not trying to merge two images into each other, which is from 1949. For the 1914 map, not made by Sanborn, first time since 1901. It's a much smaller scale, as a matter of fact. There's not really streets, just the blocks are just small circles. I don't know what they were doing. There's no street names, and it's much more expansive, showing all the way down to almost modern-day Warrington. For 1919, it is more zoomed in, focusing just to the west of downtown. A few names are visible. It's largely undetailed, with potential plans for land reclamation, because apparently that's what they were going on about in the 18 and 1900s. For the 1921 map is where it gets exciting, because it's the first map feature that was created by the USGS, which is a name you're going to be hearing very commonly from here on out. On this particular map, there are no street names, and the map of East Pensacola Heights is first shown. From here on out, the USGS maps will not be superimposed on the 2012 map because the USG maps are consistently the same size and cover the same area. The only maps from here on out not made by the USGS are the 1925, 1947, 1949, and 1950 maps. Something interesting that you may have noticed is the two, not one, but two bridges that cross the Bayou Tahar. It's only interesting because it is not like this in modern times. For the 1925 map, this was actually not made by the USGS. There are more possible waterfront expansions also shown with the coastline. This map also confirms Tunis as the northernmost point of the grid, which I know you haven't been wondering about, but for a few years I have been wondering what the most northern point of the grid, if it was Tahar or Tunis, and we found out. It's also labeled as 30. Did I just put 31st Street? 31st Street as well. For the 1941 map, it's the first appearance of the airport. Plans for the new Highway 29, as a matter of fact, it was still holding the old Palafox route. Surrounding areas of Pensacola were revealed for the first time in 24 years since the 1921 map. Besides that, the downtown has remained largely unchanged, with the exception of the two bridges now dwindling to one. I will not be showing the 1942 and 1944 maps because there is literally nothing different. 1947 map, I didn't expect to have a blurry map again, but, well, I do. The EPH grid is still numbered, and Pace Boulevard is actually known as O Street, which wouldn't change until 1953. For the 1949 map, this was the last map I will be showing made by Sanborn, and as far as I know, the last map they made, for Pensacola at least. It shows areas near Corey Field for the first time, and the numbered grid now extends in, well, more or less the grid's just straight streets to 52nd Street. Still no major changes, though. For the 1950 map, this is the sixth map for 9 years, and it's also the last map I have with a numbered EPH grid. It's also extremely blurry, and there's still no major changes. The 1957 map, this is the first very large-scale map. It shows Bay Minette to Freeport, which is interesting considering it was labeled as a Pensacola map. It also shows plans for I-10 and I-110, which hadn't been built up to this point, as the interstate bill wasn't signed until 1 year before this map. It shows something peculiar. It shows something peculiar in the form of a continued old Spanish trail in Johnson Avenue. Also shows a discontinued railroad route to the steam plant at 10 Mile, and a discontinued intersection between 5. It It also shows a discontinued intersection between Pine Forest and Detroit Boulevard slash Wild Lake Boulevard. For 1959, there was nothing different other than the fact that the interstate plans were removed, and nothing different for 1960 either. For 1970, this is the last time the old Spanish Trail route is technically ran, considering the 1978 map. It had several neighborhood streets running through it. I-10 or I-110 was built up to Maxwell Street. Many neighborhoods complete in East Pensacola, and the first node of the Death Triangle. Look at it, it's the Death Triangle. And very interesting, Airport Boulevard was called Kilby Lane. For 1994, even more neighborhoods were completed in Northeast Pensacola, with I-110 completed with slight deviations in its plan due to the new Pensacola Civic Center, causing a weird loop-de-doop-de ramp. I think that's ridiculous more than I look at it. And the last map, 2012. There's only one change I want to point out, and it's the one that makes me happy. Kilby Lane has finally been renamed Airport Boulevard. That's it. All 254 years told through 29 maps. And I'll upload a part 2 if I find even more. If you enjoy this video, which time or 1,000 views will tell, I'll make another one of these detailing the history of Cantonment or maybe Milton. Anyways, Skyline Start out. Okay, buddy.